If he opened this door, there'd be no shutting it again, no matter what lay on the other side. Instinctively he looked round, hoping to see Sarah perched on the stool next to him, brushing a strand of blonde hair from her face with a warm smile. Now more than ever, he needed her to tell him what to do. But the stool remained unoccupied, as he half knew it would be. The truth was, she hadn't appeared to him since he'd moved into the penthouse. Could it be something to do with the place itself? Was there something about it, too cold, too clinical? Did she just not like the decor? Was she afraid Joseph would get his muddy feet and sticky fingers all over the pristine surfaces? He shook his head. Don't be so fucking stupid. She's dead. She's not worried about the fucking furniture. So why hadn't she appeared to him? For a moment he felt panic start to grip him. Had something happened to her? But what more could happen to dead people? Nothing worse than dying, surely. Oh, for fuck's sake, he said aloud, his voice echoing off the bare walls. Well, if Sarah wasn't going to come to the penthouse, he'd just have to go to her, to the one place he knew her spirit was always present, the place where they'd buried her. He looked at his watch, not yet 10. He was supposed to stay in the apartment until 11 at least, showing his face at the windows, moving around, using all the facilities, the entertainment system, the gym, the sauna and jacuzzi, turn and turn about, making one-sided phone calls and having video conferences with non-existent people until it was time for bed. Sometimes he'd even put the TV on and sit in the big leather armchair with his eyes closed and noise-cancelling earbuds in for an hour. But surely, even reclusive billionaires went out sometimes. How much TV could they watch before going even crazier than they started out? And who the fuck was going to know anyway? Well, his employers were probably able to monitor the penthouse's electrical output, or had a direct connection to the computer that worked all the gizmos, so they could see exactly what he was doing. But this was an emergency. He needed to go and see his dead wife. An hour there, less than an hour back at this time of night, and he put on an extra late show for the watchers when he got back, so no one could complain. Can't say fairer than that, he thought. 5 minutes later, back in his normal clothes with a windbreaker and a dark baseball cap, he was standing by the front door punching the various security codes into the keypad. He waited for the confirmation beep that told him he hadn't forgotten anything, opened the door and then shut it behind him with the pneumatic hiss of a giant freezer, feeling like one of the pyramid builders sealing up the pharaoh's resting place behind him with a deadly curse upon would-be tomb robbers. Then he was padding down the empty corridor towards the lift that led directly down to the basement car park. It was 11:05 when Logan drove slowly past the gates of the cemetery, his headlight beams picking out the heavy chain with its oversized padlock. He drove on for another 50 yards, then turned right down a badly lit lane hugging the cemetery wall, until he saw the twisted oak he'd noticed on his last visit. There weren't many houses here, where the cemetery wall blocked your sunlight and the view from the first-floor bedroom would be rows of depressing tombstones, but he knew there was a cluster of 3 houses a little further down the lane, hunkering down behind tall, thick hedges. He parked the car near enough to look like it belonged there, before walking back to the tree and standing for a moment to listen. A little wind rustling the branches, the distant cry of an owl, a twig breaking on the other side of the wall as a fox or a badger nosed its way around. Nothing to suggest he wasn't alone. He turned the torch on his phone on for a few seconds to see where the hand and footholds were, then switched it off and put it back in his pocket. No problem. 3 feet up, one of the bricks was broken, and he wedged his right foot in the gap, then braced himself against the trunk of the tree with his left foot, and heaved himself up until his hand closed round a branch. Pulling himself upwards, he swung a leg over the wall, careful to avoid the shards of broken glass decorating the top, then the other leg, then let go, landing softly on a leaf-covered bank on the other side. He brushed himself off, making sure he hadn't snagged any of the glass, and looked around, listening again for any sounds that didn't belong in a cemetery at night. Given how easy it was to scale the wall, he wouldn't have been surprised to bump into a few teenagers after the thrill of a quickie on top of a tombstone, or just looking for somewhere to share a bottle of vodka and a smoke without getting hassled. But everything seemed to be quiet. He made a quick sweep with the phone torch to get his bearings. There was a neat row of marble gravestones in front of him, with a path a few yards to his right, winding between the plots. That, he knew.